Riots erupt in New York and Washington, D.C. after 2 black men die in police custody. But what they're not telling you is, in both of these cases, the men died for very logical and rational reasons. Not because they were brutalized or targeted by police, but because one was on massive amounts of an illicit substance, and another pulled out a gun. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today, on the internet, I want to talk about 2 cases. One is a protest in New York that erupted after a black man is said to have suffocated in a spit hood. But there's a lot of misinformation about this. And then there's another case in Washington where protests erupted after a black man was shot, but again, that's more clear-cut. He pulled out a weapon. Now, before we look into the details of these stories, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications for updates for new content. And if you like this video, please consider giving it a share. And now, a quick word from our sponsor, Virtue Signal, the card game. Virtue Signal, the game of social justice, is a card game parody of social justice activism. In Virtue Signal, you play as one of 12 different social justice warriors. The object of the game is simple: attract a coalition of NPC followers. It won't be easy though. Virtue Signal simulates the power struggles that goes on between activist groups. There's also Virtue Signal, the expansion pack, adding new cards and elements to the game. But you can get it all for only $34.98. Link is down below in the description. So, okay, let's start with this because there's a little bit to break down here. We've got a story of an African-American male, 41, who was handcuffed and died of asphyxiation. Now, the Democrats and the liberals and the left-wing activists that are protesting, rioting on the street all say that, oh my God, he was suffocated by this hood. He was not. He was not. So a spit hood is something that you put on a person. It's like a white hood, kind of looks like a bag when they're trying to spit at you. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, cops had to put the hood on him because he was spitting at them. I mean, you always see the left talk about how deadly COVID is, even though it turns out that it's a lot less deadly than we thought. So yeah, and this isn't a hood that suffocates you. It's a mesh, so that means it has holes, meaning it's designed so that you can actually breathe with it on. That is not why he died. He did not die because of a hood. He died because he was on a crap load of something called PCP. I'm sorry. This situation isn't funny. It's just that the substance he was on is notoriously known to have bad side effects. It's crazy stuff, folks. It's not something that is safe. So here it goes on to say, protests have erupted in upstate New York after a newly surfaced video revealed how a 41-year-old handcuffed black man died of asphyxiation in March after a group of police officers put a hood over his head, then pressed his face into the ground until he stopped breathing. Now, are you beginning to see a pattern here? You've got all of these people who are under the influence of very strong substances dying in police custody. I'm beginning to think, and this is just me folks, that maybe these people didn't die because of police, but died because of the large amounts of illicit substances in their system. Maybe, just maybe, it was the PCP. I wonder. It's almost as if 99% of the people who died in police custody were criminals of some sort. Anyway, so Daniel Prude, 41, was left brain dead after the incident and later died on March 30th when he was taken off life support, 7 days after the encounter with police in Rochester. So how did this all start? His brother had phoned for assistance because he was suffering a mental health episode. Yeah, when are they going to mention the illicit substances? I don't see it here. I can only be led to believe that this author is trying to paint a false narrative. So not only did his brother call police, one neighbor, at least one, called 911 because he was smashing windows and being crazy. Okay, so here's what happened. Prude was then only stopped by Officer Mark Vaughn from Rochester PD. Vaughn pointed a taser, ordered him to lay on the ground, and put his hands behind his back, to which he complied. Officer Vaughn then handcuffed Prude as he laid on his stomach. Prude spat, yelled, and told cops he had COVID-19. They put a hood over his head, then laughed at him while he screamed profanities at them. Yeah, okay. So this guy was under the influence. He said he had COVID-19 and was spitting at cops. So they put the spitting mesh on him. That would not have blocked his airflow in any way. But we see the narrative. We see the narrative of, oh, the police are evil and they took out another innocent person. No, that's not what happened. Okay, so it gets better. After the hood was placed over his head, Prude became more agitated. He flipped onto his side and yelled, "Give me that gun." Then 3 of the cops pushed him into the ground and held him down for more than 3 minutes while he screamed. The cops only became worried when they noticed fluid seeping out of his mouth. By then, he was unconscious. Yeah, it sounds like he OD'd. They mentioned Floyd. He also OD'd. And that's based on the medical report that was released about his blood content. And he wasn't just on one. He was on several substances. And I believe the report said that his blood had levels of fentanyl that were so high, it is legally classified as overdose. Probably what caused his demise. And I really don't see a difference with this story either. Sure, it's sad. We can call it sad. We can call it what it is. It's sad. But it's not the police's fault. And I'm tired of the police being demonized because people want to commit crime, people want to do these substances, and people want to OD. It's not the police's fault. He didn't tell them to take so much of these substances. We've got to talk about this, folks. Prude was taken to the hospital and placed on life support, but he died 7 days later. The medical examiner ruled his death a homicide, caused by complications of asphyxia, in a setting of physical restraint, excited delirium, and acute PCP intoxication. So here they admit that he was intoxicated with a large amount of PCP. Could that possibly be the reason that he stopped breathing? I think so. But that's not what they want to tell you. That's not the narrative they want to sell. They want to sell you the narrative that he was just an innocent guy and, just it happened for no reason. Yeah. So what are the effects of the substance? Well, let's just look at some of the side effects, okay? And we're going to see if any of that could have possibly contributed to what happened here. It can also lead to rigid muscles, delusions, amnesia, chills or sweating, irregular heartbeat and low blood pressure, reduced breathing rate, stop noticing patterns, dizziness, nausea, and vomiting, etc., etc. Look, I don't need to tell you this. This is common sense. The police are being blamed for all of these things. And I just think, at this point, that it's nonsense. The cops are trying to do their jobs. There's people out there who are, I don't know how to put it, screw-ups. Is that the way to say it? I don't know. But there's people out there who don't have their head on straight. So they commit these crimes. They OD. It happens. I don't know what to tell you here. This is real life. So people took to the streets. 9 people are arrested. One of the protesters tried to incite a riot, and so on and so forth. And of course, his family's trying to start a movement. It's pretty much the same in D.C., except this story is a lot more simple. Here it says, D.C. police released body cam footage showing moment cop shoot an 18-year-old in the back after he pulled a gun, sparking protests. As it was revealed, the teen was a validated gang member. So, in Washington, D.C., a man named Deon Kay was shot. He was 18 years old. And they're saying that, oh, we got a riot. We've got to go out and burn things and protest because this was injustice. But he pulled out a gun on cops. He was a gang member. What do you want me to say? This is my point here, folks, and this is what I hope that you take from this video. The people being impacted by this, 99% of the people that end up in altercation with cops are criminals. Okay, let's be fair, 95%. It's a margin of error. Because when I actually go back and look at all of these cases that the left wing, the groups like BLM and Antifa have complained about, almost every single time, it involves an actual criminal. It involves someone breaking the law. It involves someone doing something they shouldn't be doing, or under the influence of substances which have very bad side effects. Look, I criticize police. I don't even like police. I'm afraid of police. I'm a POC. I don't know what they want from me. But at the end of the day, police need to do their jobs, and we need police. Heck, I've thought about becoming a police officer at some point. What's the benefit anymore? The cops are demonized. They're hated on. You don't pull out a gun on police and then expect to live. I'm sorry, but you don't. Because the police are trained. It's either their life or your life. Why should a gangbanger get to shoot the police and the police can't even defend themselves? Nonsense. Because that's what the left would have you believe. So you can see a picture of some of the protests in New York. You know, they're fighting for this guy. I'm not sure why. Arrest the murderers now, says the neckbeard in the back. Yeah. These people don't care about the truth. They don't care about the facts. They don't care that he was under a lot of PCP, one of the most notorious drugs among law enforcement, because people on PCP often become violent. Becoming psychotic is one of the possible effects. I remember a story that a cop told me once, and this was when I was in school, like a long time ago, like high school. There was a cop and he was telling stories to the students. And his story was, one time he received a call about a person loitering in an abandoned property. So he went to the property. I'll never forget this, because this is incredible. He says he found the boy, and it turns out the young man was on PCP with one arm, and this guy was skinny, and the police officer was rather thick. With one arm, this guy grabbed him by the throat and lifted him up in the air against a wall. I'm talking like Herculean strength. And he had this look in his eye, he said, this crazy look that he will never forget. Ultimately, he subdued the suspect, but it could have easily gone the other way. So that's the story I remember about PCP, about how it gave one young man, it turned off the limiters in his brain, and he was able to use his muscles full strength. And when he lifted that cop with one arm, he probably broke the bones in his arm, and he probably tore the muscles. But for that moment, for that brief moment, he had the strength to crush this man. And this is what they're fighting for, folks. This is what they're protesting for. This is what they're trying to riot for. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. A shrine. Are we going to build a shrine for every person on PCP? Are we going to build a shrine for every person that pulls a gun on cops? Does it even matter to these people? No, it doesn't. It's all about BLM and Antifa and burning down the city. So you know what, folks? This is the real story. Two criminals, two bad ends. It's a tale as old as time. And look, I'm not saying that any of them deserve this. They're victims in their own way. But there's a difference between being a victim of a cop and being a victim because of your own life choices. Actions have consequences. And sometimes those consequences come for us. But that, my friends, is merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? Let me know down below in the comment section. As always, if you like the work I do and want to support the channel, you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar. If you want to donate, there's DonorBox and crypto. Links and addresses are down below. And why not check out my merch store? I have Deus Vult designs that you may enjoy. Anyhow, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.